Draco of Athens, suffocated by cloaks. Around 600 BC on the island of Aegina, Greece. It's the height of summer, and the entire city has packed into a massive outdoor stone theater for a grand public celebration to honor Draco for his legal work. Draco was the first guy to write down Athens' laws, so rulers couldn't just invent punishments on the fly. The citizens were so ecstatic to have actual civil rights that they completely lost their minds when he walked on stage. In ancient Greece, throwing your cloak or hat was the ultimate sign of respect, like throwing roses at a concert or storming the court after a championship game. The crowd started showering him with heavy wool garments, but it was a massive crowd, and the clothes just kept flying. Draco, an older man, got pinned to the floor, completely trapped in total darkness under hundreds of pounds of fabric, and literally suffocated to death from a massive avalanche of appreciation. Hans Steininger, The Beard Trip, September 28, 1567, in the small, cozy town of Braunau am Inn, Austria. Hans wasn't just a random guy, he was the highly respected, multi-term town mayor. Everyone loved him, mostly because he possessed a glorious, world-class 4.5-foot-long beard that reached all the way to his toes. Usually, he kept it safely braided and tucked away in a leather pouch so he wouldn't step on it. In the middle of the night, chaos broke out. A massive fire erupted in the town center and the panic alarm started blaring. Hans jumped out of bed to handle the emergency. In his absolute rush down the stairs of the town hall, he completely forgot to tuck his beard into his pouch. He took one step. His foot caught the bottom of his own beard, and he plummeted down the staircase, snapping his neck instantly. Chrysippus died laughing at his own joke. Around 206 BC in Athens, Greece, right during the middle of a major wine-heavy festival feast, Chrysippus was one of the premier minds of the ancient world, the brilliant head of the Stoic school of philosophy. He spent his life writing massive, complex books on logic and physics. After drinking a heavy amount of undiluted wine at the festival, he stumbled outside and saw a random donkey casually eating some expensive figs right out of a bowl. For a world-class genius, this was somehow the peak of comedy. He yelled out to his servant, "Now give the donkey a drink of pure wine to wash down the figs." He thought his own joke was so unbelievably funny that he collapsed into a violent, breathless laughing fit, passed out from lack of oxygen, and died right next to the donkey. King Adolf Frederick eaten to death. February 12, 1771, at the Stockholm Palace in Sweden. It was Shrove Tuesday, the massive traditional feast day right before the fasting period of Lent begins. Adolf Frederick was the king of Sweden, but he was known for being a pretty weak ruler who mostly just enjoyed his hobbies, specifically eating massive luxury meals. Since it was the final day to gorge on food before fasting, the king decided to go all out. He sat at the royal table and consumed an entire ocean of lobster, caviar, sauerkraut, smoked herring, and rivers of champagne. But the absolute killer was dessert. He demanded semla, rich, heavy, sweet buns filled with cream. He didn't just have one, he ate 14 giant bowls of them, completely soaked in hot milk. His stomach literally gave out from the sheer volume of food, and he died of severe digestive collapse that very night. Sigurd the Mighty, defeated by a dead guy, around 892 AD in the foggy valleys of northern Scotland, right after a bloody clash between Viking invaders and the native Scots. Sigurd was a fierce Viking leader who won a bitter feud against a local chief named Mile Bricta, nicknamed the Buck-Toothed because of his wildly prominent front teeth. Sigurd cheated in their agreed duel, slaughtered the Scots, and chopped off Bricta's head. Hyped on victory, Sigurd tied the severed head to his horse's saddle as a trophy and galloped home. As the horse ran, the head bounced wildly, and Bricta's massive buck-tooth deeply scratched Sigurd's bare leg. Because the wound got infected with bacteria from the corpse, his leg ballooned up, and the legendary Viking died days later, killed by a guy he had already decapitated. Aeschylus, the eagle drone strike. Around 456 BC outside the city walls of Gela, Sicily, under a blindingly hot Mediterranean sun, Aeschylus was a famous Greek writer known as the father of tragedy. A prophet warned him, "You will be killed by a falling object from the heavens." Terrified of collapsing roofs, he abandoned city life and spent his days sitting entirely out in wide-open, completely empty dirt fields. While he sat on a rock thinking up a play, a massive eagle flew overhead carrying a heavy, live tortoise. Looking for a hard rock to drop it on to smash the shell for lunch, the eagle spotted Aeschylus's smooth, shiny, bald head glistening in the sun. Mistaking it for a perfect boulder, the eagle dropped the tortoise from hundreds of feet up, scoring a direct hit to his skull and killing him instantly. Jean-Baptiste Lully, the conductor Cain, January 8th, 1687, inside a massive candle-lit church in Paris, France, thick with incense and the sound of a 150-person orchestra. Lully was the favorite court composer for King Louis XIV. He was conducting a grand dramatic hymn to celebrate the king recovering from a severe illness, and the pressure to be perfect was intense. Back then, conductors didn't use tiny light batons. They used a chef d'orchestre, a heavy 6-foot-long wooden staff lined with solid silver that they violently smashed against the stone floor to thump out the rhythm. Lully got so aggressively into the zone that he swung the massive staff down with full force, missed the floor entirely, and smashed the heavy metal end directly into his own big toe. He refused amputation, gangrene set in, and it slowly poisoned his blood until he died. Clement Vallandigham, the lawyer who proved his point, June 17, 1871. In a stuffy, crowded hotel room in Lebanon, Ohio, the night before the final day of a high-stakes murder trial. Clement was a dramatic defense attorney representing a guy accused of murder in a bar brawl. His whole theory was that the victim hadn't been murdered at all, but had accidentally shot himself while clumsily drawing his pistol while kneeling down. To lock in a not guilty verdict, Clement brought the jury to his hotel room for a live reenactment. He picked up a pistol he thought was completely unloaded, tucked it into his pocket, dropped to his knees, and said, "Watch closely, gentlemen. This is exactly how it happened." He jerked the gun out, the trigger snapped on his clothes, and a loud bang shattered the room. The gun was actually fully loaded. He shot himself right in the stomach and died the next morning. But he won the case because the jury instantly freed his client. Want more? Subscribe for weekly videos and click here to watch what's next.